Okay, I know I'm probably frozen, right?
Yes, you are.
You're
But
perfect.
yeah,
Let it
but
go.
yeah.
Let it go.
All right, I'm probably going to drop off. I'm having some problems, so I'm probably going to drop off for a while. But
Thank
I want
goodness.
to start everything off by saying thank you and welcome to those of you not watching the World Series like I'm not, right? For a really intense and interesting discussion about thought balloons and text boxes or what have you. I think Matt Woods and I have been arguing about this for about 3 years, so we thought we might as well duke it out right now online. And along with us, we have here tonight, we have Alan, Climbing Comics. Hi, Alan.
Hello, hello.
Steve, the voice White Walker.
Hey,
So I'm always scared when I say that for some reason. We have the one, the only, Matthew Woods.
Oh, this guy.
I tricked you, Matt.
You did. I was one Stevie.
I know, I tricked you.
I'm shocked.
And we have the one, the only, the encyclopedia mind of comic books, among other things, Chuck Hensey. Thank you, guys. Welcome here. So I'm going to introduce this thing, then I'm going to drop off for a while and see if I could fix my stuff that's there. Let's take a look and see who has joined us for tonight. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to blame Terry for this. He said he's going to stay up late. You know, it's like midnight or 1 o'clock in England to watch this. And I think that's why I'm having problems. But that's okay.
A lot of pressure.
we're going to assign blame.
Las cruces. Amigo, ¿cómo estás? Perfect. And we have Trev. Trev, good to see you, my friend.
My brother.
Trev. There's Steve saying hi to people. There's Trev again. Let's see. The Jackson Roykirk.
That guy. Didn't he unsub you already?
I would like to participate in the chat.
Can we block the Jackson?
You're always
Roykirk?
welcome to join us.
He's got a wrench, man. He can't be blocked.
That's true. He's too much power.
Now,
He's my arch nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
that's a good. I like that statement there, with or without bubbles.
With or without speech bubble.
Jackson is a popular name. Yeah, okay. Baseball guys, right? Jackson Roykirk. All right, one of my best pals here, Jerry the Jitterbug. Jerry, good to see you. I still got to watch your posting from this morning. I didn't get the chance to see that yet. Yes, there's Terry. I know better places. I can't disagree with you there. All right, and finally we have Gary B. All right, as other people
Gary
come in,
B,
if I'm here,
my brother,
we'll say hello. If not, Alan will do it.
I will.
you'll officiate.
Actually, right now, it seems to have solidified. It seems to have calmed down. Do you see me better?
Yeah. You're
Moving
okay
around.
now. Yeah, you're
Look at
clock
that.
clear.
It decided to say it's okay.
Positive
So,
thoughts.
That means I'm going to be bringing up the photographs and all the stuff I wanted to show beforehand, which I didn't get a chance to do because of the issue. So we've got, I mean, I took a look at this and I thought about this for a while, you know, and let's see, anybody else? So, and I know that Matt and myself, let's get ourselves a little bit bigger here. Matt and myself have been talking about this for a little bit of time. Alan says he has some thoughts on it, and Chuck and Steve as well. From what I could see, there are pluses and minuses to both. And I'm hoping to bring up some of the examples as we go along so we can take a look at them. But I'm going to start off with my basic premise and as to why I was kind of a pro for the bubbles, basically. And then I'll let you guys chime in and I'll try to bring up some of the examples.
Okay.
One of the things that I always thought of was, as I was, you know, reading comic books and so forth, was that if you have a thought or a speech bubble, right? Or as Professor Xavier has, when he does his, when they do the telepathy, it's like a thought bubble, but it's got little lines sticking out of it. So it shows he's broadcasting the thing. There's all these little doodads that are out there. It's really part of the story. It's part of the artwork, you know? And so if you now just start having these boxes, it seems that it just is not the same. It's not part of the artwork. It becomes something different. Now, I'm going to show you some instances later on as we discuss this a little bit more, where I think it works pretty well having the boxes, but other instances where having the thought balloons and whatever else kind of make no sense, you know? So I think now that I've done a little bit of research and looked at it, I can see where both could really work. But my first instance is that the change occurred basically when comic books became more adult oriented. So maybe like late 80s, 90s, excuse me, that type of stuff. And in some instances, and the thing that I object to is when I really don't even need to have the artwork. I'm reading a story. It's really got to join with the artwork in some way, you know, and I think sometimes that fails. So that's my opening statement with respect to this. So I'll open it up to you guys and you tell me what you think while I look up some examples. Hey, Brian.
You want me to start leading off my thoughts on it?
I would say yes, except I'm afraid that no one else get a chance to talk.
They might not. Because
I'm just
going to be
joking.
going on for like an hour and a half. Okay.
I'm just joking.
Joe,
You know what? I'm
cut
going
to
to
the
make you
quick.
bigger. How's that? Look at there you go.
Pow,
man,
right in the
that's-
kisser.
Yeah, you're going to make my head too big. Okay. That's the problem here. All right. But listen, comic books is a legit storytelling art form. Okay. And yes, they started out, it was the thought balloons or the speech balloons, whatever. And people liked it because you could hear what they're saying, but you almost didn't need to have the dialogue on there because the art was telling the story as just as much as it was whatever they were saying to each other. So you didn't need to have, you know, a blow by blow, a script that just told you everything that was happening because the reader was able to comprehend it. There were limitations to that. Now, if there was something going on in the background, you know, they'd have a little sidebar and, you know, mentioning something like that. But for the most part, the art is what told the story, and it was part of the medium. Well, then, like you said, it was like the late 80s whenever they started putting in the dialogue boxes and a lot less, you know, speech balloons. Oh, there you go. Some of them right there. So, you know, and that's just a different way of saying it. Like, and it worked well for Batman because Batman's a character that doesn't say a whole lot. And he works a lot by himself. Now, I know Robin used to be there for a while, but by the late 80s, Robin wasn't really, you know, part of the storyline. So it really worked well with that character. I personally, I don't know which one I like better. I actually don't think it matters. I think they're just different ways of telling the same story. And I'm going to bring up a book that uses both of them, a modern day book, Geiger, okay? You know, you go to the very first page. And Joe, you got to make me a little bit bigger, big guy.
I am.
I could do it if you need me.
I got it.
Okay.
There we go. If you look at this first page, it's all dialogue boxes, okay? Except one little speech. Right now, I guess there's a handful of them there, but mostly dialogue boxes. Well, then, as short as page 2, there's, you know, they're already getting the, you know, the balloons back in to tell the storyline, and they go back and forth throughout this book. It actually makes it a pretty interesting storyline because it tells you the background things and it tells you what, you know, things are happening, what people's motivations are, but it also gives you that interaction between two characters. And so it's like it adds to the storyline. I think the writers of Geiger, okay, which are amazing, Jeff Johns.
Oh yeah.
He's doing a very good job telling a very good story. And honestly, this book has been talked about a lot in this show. This is one of those modern books that I think a lot of people like. And I think a lot of it has to do with they're not limiting themselves on how they tell the story. It has great art. It has great writing. And, you know, the storyline is good. And they use both forms of storytelling in the same comic book.
Well, let me since you brought up there's a lot of good articles about thought balloons. I didn't realize there was that many out there. But let me show you. You mentioned Batman, you know, and
Yes.
I'm going to bring this up because here's the situation, and I kind of agree with you that this is from the Dark Knight, I believe. So when you take a look at some of these things, you take a look and say, this really seems to work. You know, you're not going to have people saying things during this time. So if you take a look at this one, oh, let me see. How do I get this? How do I get this?
There it is.
Here we go. Here we go. All right.
Presenting.
So if you take a look at this one, you see there that you have one speech balloon, right? Kill him, I'll kill him. So Batman is now setting up his entire approach, right? The last one's usually the one to lose it. And I let him, I let him blah, 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 blah. Then he sees that a rookie cop is coming in as well. So he has to take care of the rookie cop, so he doesn't get hurt. And he talks about the rookie's safe for now, So you're seeing what's going on in his mind. He's waiting for the guy to come behind him, and he says, I love this part. There are 7 working defenses from this position. 3 of them disarm with minimal contact. 3 of them kill. The other hurts.
Crap.
I mean, I don't know how else you do that. So, as I was researching it, I was saying to myself, this works. And I think you hit it on the nose with Batman, Matt. I think with Batman, it even works perhaps better than some other people. There's some other, heroes.
There's another character that I will read quite a bit. Some of you guys may have heard of this character or know that I like him, but Conan the Barbarian. I don't know if anyone knows that I like Conan. But anyhow.
Hasn't come up before.
Never? Well, anyhow.
Maybe once.
No, but in all honesty, I had to bring that up tongue in cheek. But whoa, Joe, look at this. Okay. Way to go. It's like you knew I was going to be on the show. I
knew you were going to mention Conan, so I wanted to get a picture up there. So this is one where you didn't really need a lot of words.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Conan, he does a lot of work by himself. And so there's really not a whole lot of speech balloons needed. It's a lot of dialogue boxes so that you can help tell the story of what's going on in his head. So he's another one like Batman that, works alone in the dark, blah, 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 all that other good stuff. But those dialogue boxes work for characters like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if I can offer up a little bit of a rebuttal there.
Okay.
Growing up as a child in the early 70s, I learned how to read thanks to the electric company.
Me too.
Good, safe television. My mother could put me in front of, forget about me for an hour or so.
Street's good too.
And of course, with Spider-Man on that show, Spider-Man didn't speak. The whole point was to get you to read. And so, but you learn the language of comics, which include the difference between the thought bubble and the speech balloon by how they were drawn and how you interpreted it. And at the same time, I was also learning how to read off my dad's collections of Peanuts comics.
Oh, those are the great.
Which I love.
Yeah.
But again, with the Peanuts comics, the only way you ever know what's going on in Snoopy's head is with the thought bubble.
Right.
Occasionally Woodstock will chime in, but it's a bunch of slash marks and God only knows what he's saying. So, but the point though is that the thought bubble served a purpose there, especially given some of the art styles or the designs of the characters. It's not like a Batman who, because you can see his face and get more of an expression out of his face, you can necessarily do, necessarily do anything in terms of being able to gauge. The art's really good. You can do body language and stuff. But if you're working with Steve Ditko art, and Steve Ditko art is perfectly fine, Steve Ditko, I don't want to say is drawing glorified stick figures, but sometimes he's drawing glorified stick figures.
Sometimes.
And, but he got paid well for drawing glorified psychedelic stick figures. And, the thing is that you couldn't necessarily discern Spider-Man's attitude or thoughts with some of that limited ability. You're not talking about a Ross Andrew or, later on with a John Romita Sr. or even JR right now, whatever style he's drawing in. You may not need the thought bubble as much. So, I think it has a time and place for it,
Well, Chuck, now that you mentioned Spider-Man, I do have one example, one of my favorite Spider-Man scenes. And I think this really works because it was speech bubbles. I don't think it would work as well with the just the speech or the boxes that's there. Let me bring that one up. You tell me what you think. Okay. Right. So in this one here,
oh yeah,
you remember this whole thing, right? You've got the medication there, you know.
Spider-Man is chatty.
Yeah, and he's sitting there saying, you know, thinking he's too weak. He just had a fight. He can't do it, but he basically decides that he's the one that's got to do it, and he ends up like lifting the thing, you know, and all that type of stuff. And when you go through it, you see him, like talking to himself. But when you look at the pictures and what he says, he's really just trying to talk himself into doing what he needs to do and to become the hero that he needs to be, you know.
Like
and at the end, it says, no matter what the odds, no matter what the cost, I'll get that serum to Aunt May, and maybe then I'll no longer be haunted by the memory of Uncle Ben. I mean, I get chills when I read this. I don't know why, but this part always gets to me. And I think here, because it's got the speech, you know, bubble, it's more impactful than if you just had, you know, the little squares there where, like, you had the Batman thing. That was better because it's telling us, Batman is telling us what he's thinking, and it plays into the action, which is what I said was good. Here, you're kind of like you're actually like watching like the show, and you could see what's going through his mind because he's saying it.
Yeah, you're looking at a lot of the difference between an omniscient narrator who's giving you things versus your different first person view, as though you're standing there right there with them, versus the more omniscient side where you're actually hearing what's going on in their mind. And that gives you a little bit more impact there, because I know for a lot of us, if we're trying to talk ourselves into something, we're not going to just simply replay it in our head. But the thought bubbles, right? We're going to say it out loud. But the thought bubbles also, of course, I think one of the reasons they fall out of style is they became a lazy way of doing exposition, which could work at times. But I don't know how many times we need Spider-Man swinging around going, well, gosh, I got to remember to go see Aunt May tonight. Well, it's bingo night. I've got to hurry up and get over to see her and the rest of the old folks. It became, especially when you get to a situation where you start getting your Claremonts and your Don McGregors and Stan in his more verbose time periods. Giving us all of those words. And I think part of the switch to boxes was to reduce the amount of words on the page so you don't get a Don McGregor novel with a couple of pretty pictures thrown in there.
Don't forget George Perez in the Wonder Woman through the 80s.
Right.
Like that was dialogue heavy. Like you had to sit down and take some time to read those books.
Yeah.
He had amazing artwork, and then the dialogue was just crazy in those books.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of reading to do. And, for me, font is a big thing. I like my certain fonts. And when I read comic books that have weird fonts, that drives me crazy. I've even had comic books where they didn't really have the speech bubbles. It was just the words hovering in space in the artwork. I didn't mind that. That was actually kind of nice because it didn't take away from the art, and you could still basically read what they're saying.
Steve, let me ask you a question. You said it didn't take away from the art. All right.
Yeah.
You've got a comic book and you're reading the story. How often do you sit back and say, okay, now that I've read the box, let me really appreciate the art?
I'm kind of doing both things at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So the question really is, does it make it better? Does it not make it better? Does it make sense? And I think it depends.
Yeah, it depends on the book and the era that it's coming from.
I think that's like one of the biggest points I want to bring up, Steve. That was a really good one, because the era it came in. I don't know if any of you have read that book. It's called Marvel Comics: The Untold Story. It's a novel that kind of goes over basically how Marvel became what it was. And I remember there was a chapter where I think the frequency in which books came out, Stan really wanted to add more text to the books to remind them of what happened in the previous issue. So maybe that was important during that era, because I think there was, less books coming out. But now that a lot of people are more accustomed and know the backstories behind a lot of people, maybe we need less of some information and more of other information.
Well, and, he was big on the editor boxes. That they go way back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you another one now where there's a little of both. This is from the question, okay? And you can see how let me bring it up. He's actually speaking to this guy that he's beating these guys that he's beating the crap out of.
Mhm.
All right.
He's
Told you I was
monologuing.
having a rotten day. Told you not to
Monologuing.
mess with me.
Monologuing.
Told you not to do anything stupid. I'm getting too old for all this. I am too old for this. Damn, no reason to get sloppy. I'm the best there is. Oh, well, the ability to see, blah, blah, blah. And don't forget that, babe. Boom. All right.
Right.
And then takes off his mask, goes around there, opens his coat, and walks away. No words, but you know exactly what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So here's a situation where the author and the artist used both, and I think used them in a really good way.
I'm trying to remember that comic that came out not too long ago where it was a series of like 4 or 5 issues and there was absolutely no dialogue in any of the books at all.
Well,
Was that recent?
Marvel did a month where there was no dialogue in the books. That was about
Right.
12 years ago or so.
Ah,
Yeah. Then you got the G.I. Joe 21, the silent issue, and you got no problem reading and figuring out what was going on in that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of R. Crumb had done that a few times too. You see it over here.
Yeah.
There's no words,
Just the
Yeah.
title, and then that's
It's
it.
no
The art
big
speaks
deal.
for itself.
right? And I had the other one up here. This is the Grapes of Wrath. A review by Milton Gross. So he reviewed the movie this way. I mean, it's kind of cool if you look at it. Actually, there
Yeah.
are some words here, but
Well, there's some signage and stuff. That reminds me of like the Mad Marginals.
Yeah.
That was done all the time, and they were basically, it was just pictures, and they told the
That's
story
right.
in the picture, right?
Right. And Spy versus Spy was that way most of the time too.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Spy versus Spy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a lot of examples in Mad where they had no text whatsoever. It was just
Did
the
Doug
art
Bratt
telling the
never do
story.
a Spy versus Spy? I feel like he once said that he did, but I don't know. That just might be a false memory.
I don't know.
What did you say? I missed it.
I was wondering if Doug Bratton, I was just looking at an isolation book. I was wondering if he ever did a Spy versus Spy, and I almost think that he said he did.
No, I don't think so.
I think that was
Yeah.
a false memory.
Yeah, he was just in. He did his first work in one of the Mad magazines, the one that I got actually.
Yeah.
He just did a little quick art piece in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder how artists and writers work together, because I think you notice a lot of writers and artists pairing up more often on certain books now. And I think if you kind of have that good flow with someone, can you like reduce the amount of texts or thought bubbles because you trust that your artist will convey what you're trying to say?
I think a lot of it depends on the relationship they have, Alan, because I know some people really give really detailed, this is a speech and this is a speech and this should be in a speech bubble. And others, I think, turn around and say, hey, look, Alan, here's my script. Do what you're going to do with it. So run with it.
Run with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. If they are kind of on the same page, who is it? Like who's doing Scott Snyder stuff? Dan Mora, is it? I forget. I mean, if you see them on books, they seem to be together all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what's going on there. But I do think that, following when things got a little bit more serious, like The Watchmen and The Dark Knight, you saw a lot of that movement that went away. And it's never going to come back to the way it was, but I think that you can see situations where they both would make some sense. What I would say is that there are some times where let's see, what was this? Madam says she just needs pictures. Okay.
Justin Birch.
Right. But I'm going to show you one thing now from a Superman one where I think that you didn't need any words. And what the words are just doing is setting up what they're going to show you later on. It just didn't make any sense to me when I saw this. Look at this. And let's look at it with the words first. All right. And when you take a look at this with the words, you see, someone saying, wait for me. All right. That's fine. Crowds lining the sidewalk 10 deep. Going to have to fight my way through it. It's raining, right? This is Lois Lane. She goes to the place where Superman died, killed on the spot while defending, right? All right. The plaque marking the spot. They loved him too. Look at all the flowers, so many flowers. And then I think I forget who that is. I don't know if that's Jimmy or what, but it says, come back, Lois, come on, you got to come. But just look at this and think of it if it's just Lois and no words. Just look at her face.
Yeah, you can still get the idea of the story.
You get it exactly. You didn't need any words here. She goes to the spot where he died in memorial, whatever, killed. All right.
It says right there.
Sorry. Sorry, I flipped it back. There we go. All right. She goes over there and she looks down at the thing. I mean, there's no reason to have any words here. Maybe at the end, maybe say something because the guy comes over, but maybe not even that. He's come over to get her. You might not even need words here. So here's a situation where you didn't need anything.
They could have saved some money.
Yeah, the pictures would have been plenty.
And they could have saved time. It's not just money, and it's time, because that's why G.I. Joe 21 was silent in the first place, is because they were behind schedule. So they decided to just get rid of the dialogue because that took too much time. So they were able to pump the book out faster.
There you go.
Wow, that's a good tidbit. That's awesome. Yeah,
that's what Larry Hama had talked to people, because everyone, some people asked him, and he says, "Yeah, that wasn't done on purpose. It was done because they had a time crunch."
I think I remember reading that. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. He came on. He was doing an interview, and he talked about that, and I was like, "Wow, that's cool." So that's why it was silent. But then it turned out to be one of the most iconic books, just because of that. Right? People were like, "Wow, we've never seen that before."
I learned that tidbit from Steve on a different, a live stream probably a few years ago.
Yep.
I never knew that before. So no, but that's such a cool story, though, that they were able to pump that out and make a lot of money with it.
We could talk about G.I. Joe 84, because that's another silent issue too. There was two of them.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you can. I wouldn't like all silent issues.
No.
But I guess it's kind of a unique thing, right?
You want your dialogue. You want your heroes to talk, but they don't have to talk consistently like they do in the Wonder Woman books. Like, Jesus, the reading in that one. Boy, it takes you a long time to go through one book, but I love the artwork. But I mean, it must have cost them a fortune. I mean, from George Perez's detail in his art, and then plus the dialogue. It was a novel in each book. They must have been ridiculously expensive.
Yeah,
the amount of time he would have taken.
Marv Wolfman eventually sued DC for some stuff. So maybe, I don't know if he won or not.
They recouped their money.
They weren't getting paid that much, I mean, so a lot of it, I think, with Perez was just his pride in what he wanted to get done.
Oh, I know. And it was just amazing. Yeah, the guy loved it. He just loved the work. I mean, Harvey Kurtzman was similar to it. He wanted absolute control, and he took so much time to research everything to make it absolutely perfect that it was becoming like horrible for the cost. And he was always behind, always delayed, because he was always trying to research the hell out of the thing. Right. Yeah. So you got to look at it from a financial point of view too. Like, things got to move along.
Right. So, and this is from, I think this is from Green Arrow year one, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but so here's a situation where when I first looked at it, I said, I wonder. There you go. I wonder what the author or the writer had in terms of direction on this. All right. Or whether it was something where the artist just decided, I don't want to draw a lot of stuff. So check this one out.
Stick figures.
Just one figure and his thoughts going through it.
A bunch of narrative boxes.
Still feels like a pressure cooker, but ready to blow, blah, 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 going around there. So I don't know what the answer to that is, but I said, boy, if I'm getting paid the same amount for a page, let me just do one big picture of Oliver Queen, while he's stuck on this island, and let me just put the words in here so he understands, so people know what he's saying. You know, so I don't know.
Of course,
And
the
Go
flip
ahead.
side is Warren Ellis has a famous story about working with some artist, and he's got all this fancy dialogue set up for the page and everything. And so he sends it off, and it was a Marvel style script, and the page comes back with a giant dinosaur in the middle of it. And he's looking at it going, what the hell do I do with this? You know, so I mean, you know, that's one where maybe, you know, the artist decided they didn't want all the dialogue, and they just plopped a dinosaur there for some reason. So, you know.
Yeah.
Take up space. Yeah.
Well,
so-
here's the situation now where I think it worked really well. This is from, I think this is from Batman, Superman, or Superman, Batman #1, one of the two series that's there. So if you take a look at this one now, all right. Oop, too big. Too small.
Too small. More in the middle. Out of focus. Focus.
There you go.
There
Okay.
we go.
All right.
Yeah.
If you take a look at this one, I love this. This was great. I had to pull this one up because I saw it. So you have Superman and Batman kind of going through the same machination, but the differences. All right.
Right.
The dream always begins the same. My parents, Jarell and Lara, put me in the rocket as the planet Krypton breaks apart. All right. The nightmare always begins the same. My parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, take my hand as we leave the theater. All right. I can only imagine how difficult it was for them sending their only son into outer space as their world died around them. I can only imagine the fear that gripped them when the gunman stepped out of the shadows, never knowing that these were their last moments alive. So I said to myself, wow, this kind of encapsulates Superman and Batman directly. And the
And I
way
like
it's
the
done,
colors too. Like they have the background colors and the way that they located them too.
right. A couple of things here too. One thing that you see nowadays too with the text boxes is sometimes different colors.
Yes. They've been doing
Because
that a lot.
if you've got more than one person doing this stuff, you have to distinguish from them. You don't have, you know, the thought balloon going to the guy's head or something like that. So different, you see different colors that are there. Occasionally, it could be if it's real, when they have one of these, you know, when they have those splash pages where they have like a bunch of different frames all bouncing off of each other.
Yes.
And they have this. I find that difficult to follow.
Yeah, me too. The older I'm getting, the more grumpy I am about that. The fonts, the size of the fonts, and then when they're putting stuff over top of each other, and you're losing track of who's talking.
And that's right. And so this is okay because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, coming all the way down. But otherwise, it's just I had some of them. I forget the book that I just read a while back. I think it was it a Wonder Woman one? Because I've been reading those online. I can't forget now, but they had like, I didn't know which direction to go.
Yeah, Tom King was doing that in the Wonder Woman books. Yeah.
That's it. It must have been it. I couldn't figure out which direction to go because he had the pictures, right?
Yeah, and then
pictures were
the
going
dialogue's all
across.
over. Yes, yes.
They were going across. I didn't know if I had to read across this way or on the page. It was unclear to me.
Yeah, because of the way that it was drawn, it almost looked like you had to go across, but no, you're going down. Wait.
Exactly.
And then you're reading the wrong page and you're like, Jesus, now I'm lost.
Well,
and so I think with the thought balloons or the speech balloons, it would be a little bit easier because there'd be a narrative of some kind, you know?
Yeah, and it'll read normal, left to right, top to bottom.
Right. And we've seen with some of the web comics and stuff that have been developed of late, you know, I know Scott McCloud played with some of this with his online Zot and some of his other stuff where they've used the word balloons, the thought balloons to help you with the transition.
Right.
So that, you know, as you're setting up, as Joe's kind of talking about, you're not entirely sure where to go next. That's serving as a nice transitional method for you to go from, to figure out what order the panels are in. You know, they're not necessarily intuitive. So,
yeah. Kind of like those, like All In, when the book was backwards and you had to try and read that middle part and it was all upside down and all over the place. That was a little annoying too, that I had to flip the book over and read from the opposite side of the book. It was a cool story,
so weird.
Yeah, Trev, you're very right there. Exactly. Welcome to manga. That's right.
Yes, that's right.
I have a manga
I've
thing
been
here.
doing that forever.
Yeah. Let me see if I could bring it up right away.
And that was
I
reading
pulled that
the
up too,
opposite
'cause I
way,
saw that.
from right to left, like the Japanese style. And the books were backwards, so you'd start from the rear of the book and go to the front of the book.
So we're talking about different things there, but this is what they have: normal speech vertical,
Yeah.
speech in two parts.
The
If
fifth
they have an
of-
off-panel character, that's the way it looks.
Interesting.
If you're yelling,
Yeah.
weak or fading speech, whispering, an announcement,
So this is
Thinking.
the legend for it.
Right.
daydreaming, then they have the caption, and negative emotions, they have a
Negative.
black thing. I mean, yeah. So they have a lot more than we even were dealing with respect to that stuff.
Yeah.
But you know,
that's-
but we see
so in depth.
Joe, if you can go back to that image real quick,
Sure.
you know, we do see a lot of that in, you know, our modern comic stuff today, especially with the shapes of things, and you know the way they can combine that with whatever fonts they're using or the bold or whatever. The lady who did the lettering for Planetary, whose name, the person who did lettering for Planetary was really good on that. Using that as a way to really convey the stuff. And again, thinking back to the Peanut stuff I grew up with, you know, whether you see the clouds over the head, you with the negative emotions and stuff when somebody would get angry, you know, or things like that, really were able to convey to me as a small child, you know, granted, who was learning the language of comics, what was going on. And Matt, I don't know if you've used it, but there's a couple of programs out there for students to like do sort of a bubble connector or a thought bubble connector in education, where they can use the same style of bubbles to put together sort of a think process or brainstorming idea. Where
I
they
have
can
used a couple of those over the years.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about then. So yeah,
I do.
and yeah, so
Negative
Wow.
emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure you can.
Yeah. Negative emotion.
Oh, let's put Steve. I'm gonna make Steve big.
See, so there's an example of the negative.
Oh yeah, there it is.
yeah.
Oh,
This is
Oh, yeah.
in Freak Show. Brand new book just came out. So they got the little vampires in there, and they have the negative stuff going on.
Oh, that's cool.
interesting. I never noticed that. Yeah.
So like evil characters and stuff can have the negative stuff going on. And then
So-
examples of not a whole lot of narrative.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I have I got to show. I have one more thing that I came up with. Deadpool, right? Doesn't he? I mean, I think I'm trying to remember now. He has his voices inside, right?
Yes.
When his inside voices speak, is that yellow? I think that's yellow.
Yes.
And when he talks, it's whenever it's white, you know, with the boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So let me bring this one up. Someone just put this together. I don't, you know, I don't read Deadpool usually, so I don't know which issue this was from, but it had to do with I don't know. Is it called Pool Dog or whatever he's called?
Oh, dog pool. Yeah.
Dog Pool. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna
So-
come out with his own book. Oh, I see. It's in yellow.
I heard. Yeah. I heard that too. So that's why I was looking for something like this. So this guy, you know, I got this off of somebody's like article or something like that. As soon as we're aboard the ship, I want Tito to fire up the engines, and then, right? And you've got you've got Girl Pool,
Lady
whatever,
Deadpool.
right? And this other guy too, I forget. I don't know their names. So someone said, suppose they all were talking to themselves and then answering themselves, and you had to use this. What would it look
Multiple
like?
colors.
God.
Yeah, it would be multiple colors, right? Yeah,
Look at
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
god.
now it's crowded, right? And now,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to read. It's killing the
I
artwork.
mean, even Woof Woof was. So, oh my God! If Old Pool calls me, what? I can't even read this one more time. I'm cramming my lights out labor into his brain. Dude, don't call it a lightsaber. So that, you know, talking to himself and all this stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
So that was just
lawyers
Oh,
on
wow.
our ass.
I just thought that was cool. I just kind of like that, you know.
That's
'Cause it
breaking
shows
the
that
fourth wall.
extreme. you know,
Yeah.
that where it could work. But obviously, if you're the artist and the writer, you don't want that to happen, right?
You don't want to clutter up the
You'll keep
page
it
too
simple
much,
to
but you
the-
still want to convey the information.
You still want to convey the information, right? Right.
So that's got to be fun for them to try and do that. They got to work with the artist, work with the letterer, work with the writer, and make sure
Right.
it all comes out harmonious. So you can put those thought bubbles, word bubbles, speech bubbles. Because I imagine the artist just draws like a full panel, and they got to figure out where to put those speech bubbles in that panel, when what they're going to look like, and how much text is going to be in there. They probably go back and forth with it a number of times too, and they could reduce what they want.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One thing I wanted to
amount of
ask.
work.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys. So I don't know if this is recent or if this is kind of a mechanism people or writers used before, but I noticed this in 2020 when Jonathan Hickman did House and Powers of X. So he actually enables the use of interstitial pages. So he'll have normal comic book pages that go through just normally what you go through here, but then he'll have like these interstitial pages that kind of gives you more background about what's going on and timelines of things that happen, all of these things. So I don't know if this mechanism was used before, but I thought this was kind of a cool idea where if you want to really get deeper into the story, yes, read the interstitial pages. But I felt like you didn't necessarily need to. You could just keep going on with the stories themselves. Like, have you guys seen
sometimes
this?
I don't like
those,
it.
Yeah, with those books, I
You
would
don't like
read the whole thing through, and then I'd go back later and then read all those pages.
And Marvel had a fold out thing they were doing at the beginning of the books in the late 90s, around 97, 98, where you could open it up and it would give you sort of that general, kind of like you had there, a general overview of who the characters were and a brief recap of what had happened before. So,
but that's okay. The new, I don't have him here, the downstairs, but the new Conan, because I'm reading Conan, the new series.
Yes, that's fantastic.
Not the big one, just the comic book. I'm reading it and I'm enjoying it. But at the beginning, they always have the map.
Yeah,
they always give you a little bit about him, and they tell you what's been happening.
Yes, they give you a narrative at the start. Yeah,
and if you read multiple books, especially, and you want to go back, I kind of like that because it lets me know. Oh yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
And then you go on with the story. So that's okay. But what you showed, I never saw that before, Alan. And I agree with Lenny. It's like homework.
It's like doing homework.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a little bit of that, if it really helps the story, but that's not a comic book. Not in my mind. And I mean, it's if it doesn't have pictures, it ain't a comic book.
Well, how'd you feel about the back of a lot of the G.I. Joe books that had the dossiers on the characters? And there was a tremendous amount of reading in some of those too.
Well, that's okay. I mean, even they've been doing that in like in the Ghost Machine stuff too.
Yeah, the Rook Exodus. Yeah, they were talking about the characters.
One in every issue.
Thing. Yeah, they had all the dossiers, same thing.
Yeah. So,
but a dossier is a little different. That's at the back, and you don't feel like you have to have read it. Where you got all that stuff from Hickman, and I feel like I need an official Marvel Handbook of the Universe with me, along with 3 other things to figure out who the 6 obscure characters he pulled in are. So,
Right, and it's more information, and if you're interested in it, you can read it. If you're not interested in it, you don't have to read it.
Yeah.
But if they're making this like the thing you showed, Alan, it seems that it's integral to the story.
Yeah, they'll give timelines
and what you showed because it was right there as you went through the story. And to me, that's a little bit weird. I don't know that I would.
How do you guys feel about the X-Men books when they were doing the Krakoan language in some of those speech bubbles, and they didn't give you the translation? But if you have the alphabet,
that was
then
annoying.
you could sit there and you could figure out what the hell they were saying. I had to sit there and go through the alphabet and try to spell it out.
I know, trying to match it.
In the ass.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it was hard.
That's not any good. That's not any good. I wouldn't do that. But
yeah, they did that quite a bit in some of those books.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
Now I did find I lied before. I do have one more picture I want to show. I think this was done perfectly. Ready?
And go. Ah, I'm gonna have such a cool car at Legos. Yeah.
Now I think
Nice.
you needed him to say something. You know, you might be able to figure it out, but you wouldn't get the same, you know, the same type of idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I found this from you know, and I love these
That's
guys.
awesome.
So I thought I'd
Those
bring
are
it
good.
up. He's in London, for Pete's sakes. He wasn't
Really?
at the New York Comic Con this time, which is just as well, because every time I go, I buy stuff from him all the time. You know, but he's in London for whatever kind of Comic Con is going on there.
So did we get any kind of resolution on this thing with this ongoing battle?
This never happens in this show.
Yeah, we never get a resolution.
I was gonna say, I don't know that we've ever come to a solution ever,
Well,
unless you just all listen to me because I'm always right. Other than that, we've never come to any conclusion.
well, I think I've come to a conclusion.
Not
I'm right.
always
Everybody else is wrong.
Right.
We should have more speech bubbles.
More speech bubbles. Okay, bring on the
Well, the
speech. Bring back the
practicality
Perez
is-
days. Running on.
The practicality is, I believe, that we're never going to go back to everything being in speech and all that type of stuff, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you are going to have situations where, you know, a speech bubble may be helpful, and situations where the artwork doesn't really lend itself to having, you know, the speech boxes. And I think one thing, and I was searching for this, and I think this is where the different colors come in, but that's a little bit annoying to me as well. But most of the boxes, the text boxes, are first person narratives,
Mhm.
right? It's the actual character there, basically either speaking to himself, but in a way where he's actually speaking, sometimes actually speaking to you, like breaking the fourth wall type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But most of the time they're going through their mental machinations, so it's first person. If you've got a third person statement, I'm not sure how you do that with boxes. I guess it would be more like the narrator type of thing.
Yeah,
And-
we're up in the top
Yeah.
corner or something.
And you'd have to do something different, you know, with respect to that. I was looking for something like that, and I don't know if I found something, but it's not perfect. Let me see if I could bring it up real quick. Oops, what did I do with it? Oh, here it is. Okay, hold on a second.
Buffering.
Got to set the whole thing
Buffering.
all over again.
We're
Set it up again.
buffering. Scrolling. Scrolling.
I
missed that.
I got rid of the
Scrolling.
screen.
Scrolling. Scrolling. Scrolling.
It's been too long.
All right.
And there we go.
Never
So
heard
this
that
one here.
Wow. Okay.
Whoa.
Wow. See, there's
Old
like
school
a Perez.
Brainiac.
Holy
So here's
crap.
Superman. He's dying from kryptonite poisoning, and he's thinking about everything, right? So he's thinking about Lois, right? And that's fine. But then he gets into remembering things that he'd done, and there he is, like narrating. And then
Oh,
you
yeah.
get Lois
Oh,
there,
interesting.
With his dead head right there. Cool.
right, with his dying head there. But I outfoxed Brainiac, blah 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 blah. Later, another Kryptonian, Kara, blah, blah. And so you've got the scene, but you've got his statement is what he's remembering, you know, as he's on his dying bed. So, and I've seen some of this before, and they had a lot of this. This is an older book. I forget the number of it. It's an Action Comics story, but we saw a lot of this back in the day, where you had the story and you had the person, the narrator's head there.
Yeah, I
Whenever he
remember
would
that.
say
Yeah, a lot of
something.
Marvel books did that too.
Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
You know, and I think nowadays they got to do something with it too, because it could get kind of complicated, like that Deadpool thing. So to me, I think as long as the text box works with the artwork, and they don't purposely say I could never have a speech balloon or a thought balloon, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I like to have a balance. I don't want too little and I don't want too much. Because if you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever felt ripped off if you read through a book that had hardly any dialogue and you were like through it in a minute and you're like, why did I pay $5 for this thing? I mean, the artwork's great, but Jesus, there could have been a little bit more. Right?
Yeah, and Jackson is kind of right over here, where he's saying the only thing he wants the writer to set the scene, so.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Matt, I just
made you big.
No, I just like backing up Steve's point where
Geiger,
you need a little bit of dialogue, maybe not too much. But I'm thinking of the Jeff Johns here with Geiger, how he goes back and forth. So I just kind of backing up with Steve's point.
Right, and I think if they have a good artwork that's there, like we saw some other ones where we said, like even that Lois Lane one, you really didn't need any dialogue. So that was like that was overkill, if anything else.
Yeah.
It wasn't good artistic stuff. I mean, from an artistic standpoint, writer.
You're getting bored, right? You're getting bored. You're reading so and you're like, Jesus, is he gonna make his point?
Yeah.
And you might have lingered. I would have lingered more on that page.
Yeah.
Without any words there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might have taken more of that art in. Yeah, that's part of the storytelling.
Yeah.
If you were an editor and you saw that page and you kind of lived through that era, like, are you saying, hey, we should keep this because we need some more explanation? Or like, because I feel like the editor, they have to kind of match the writer and the artist as well. Make sure they all kind of come into, they come in concert with it all. It's very interesting with all the players involved.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on the style of what and the tone of what you're trying to set. Because I don't know if I need tons of speech bubbles in certain stories, or certainly you need thought bubbles. I'm really not sure what kind of deep thoughts there are in Transformers. I mean, I'm sure there are deep thoughts, but but on the other hand, there are other situations where you might need that. I mean, I was just as y'all were talking, I was looking for an example of some other stuff, and I was flipping through an old Marvel book here, and it was amazing how distracting now that we don't have thought bubbles on a regular basis. The huge amount of thought bubbles that are on every single page of this Knight Rider book, the reprint of the old Westerns, and how clunky it is, is just kind of amazing. So, where you turn around and you get a more streamlined Frank Miller or Alan Moore, certainly, who never skirted on dialogue, but didn't need, but on the other hand, he never used more than he absolutely had to have,
Yeah.
Chuck, I think in the olden days, I mean, they wanted you to get through the book faster. The artwork was not as important. The story was.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was the same thing. Now you have these like superstar artists.
There you go.
They're paying these people a lot of money, whatever else.
This is the book he's talking about.
Yep.
Okay.
The Righteous
Thirst for Vengeance.
Oh, this
minimal dialogue, but tells you a really good story. Excellent series.
Right. And that certainly
really
can
cool.
be done.
Yeah.
And I think so. I think it really. I think was it? Jack. I hate to give him credit, but I think Jackson was the one who said that the writer has to really set it up and do it the right way. And if you write a comic book, if you write a comic book in the standard fashion, you're going to say page number 1 has 5 panels. In the first panel, you see a man running out of a door, and he says, "Gotta get away." All right. So if you see him running out of the door without saying anything, you're wondering what's going on. But if he says, "Gotta get away," you know that he's in trouble. So that makes a lot of sense. If you have, I don't know, Deadshot or somebody like that lining up, and you see, I don't know, Batman or somebody in the squares there, I don't think you have to say anything. You know what he's trying to do, and you want to go and see what happens next, right? So I think it really is a combination of the artist and the writer and the editor. I guess,
Yes.
putting it together so that it's the best possible story and presentation for the reader. So that they can, so they don't need to have a lot of words, because if you do, I started thinking it could be more like a pulp magazine type of thing, where you have some pictures that are there, and you're they had, I know, but we still had rocks and stone walls to. We used to use people we didn't like, Jackson. We would hurt them and then use their blood, so we'd had some red in there as well.
It was good for the art.
Cave paintings.
So, anyway,
Oh,
the marble method.
Joe goes old savage, caveman.
They were superstar artists, but I don't know if they were that at the time. Kirby was just a machine.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Roy Thomas and other writers couldn't keep Kirby busy. All right.
Yep.
And so, they're superstars now, but I think when they were doing this stuff then, I never thought of him, oh boy, this is a superstar. I mean, I liked some artwork, and to be honest with you, I mean, I liked like Kurt Swan's artwork and some other better than Kirby's. What made Kirby great was really his ability to take Stan's ideas and put them into a story. Right?
Yep.
But
Yeah.
Kirby's women all looked alike to me.
Yeah, a lot of his
Kirby's
characters are
men's
all that
facial
blocky.
expressions.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Johnny Storm could have been, Mr. Fantastic's son. I mean, so he had some issues with that, but his real thing was the splash pages, his ability to take the story and present it in a fantastic way.
Yeah.
But
lots
as
of
an
color.
actual artist, there were a lot of them that were better than him.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also makes me think about like comics, and I don't know if this is going down this other rabbit hole, but comics as a medium, because they're long-standing stories, right? We have hundreds of issues, thousands of issues for certain things. Is there a prerogative for artists to be able to tell a story with just the art, or does it always need some sort of dialogue or thought bubble? Because I'm trying to think of comparison of like, I don't know how long Geiger is, right? I'm thinking like if it's like a short mini series, like this, is there more onus on the artist to be able to tell a story with their like couple of issues that they plan on having? I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
Yeah, Alan, I think that is there. I mean, and again, a lot of it depends on what kind of story you're trying to tell. There was a series we got my kids when they were very little called Owlie, which was a nice little comic book collection, however you want to look at it, which was about a little owl and his friend, the worm. And, there was absolutely no dialogue there. But it was perfect for, a 4, 5, 6-year-old reader whose, language skills may not have been that strong, but they could follow along with the story. And there was never any words, there were never any sound effects. You had to do all that inside your head. So, and it was cute. I mean, they had 3 or 4 books of it, and they loved it. But,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, show don't tell.
Yeah, for most writers, yeah. And we didn't even talk about the sound, whatever.
Biff, bam.
Oh, what is that? Onomatopoeia?
They still exist. They haven't gone away.
Snicket.
Yeah, with respect to that. So anyway, I think that the answer is, if there is one here, is that we look at things critically, and
Yes, very
we look at it
critically.
and say, this is done well with text boxes and or thought balloons or an occasional one or what have you. And you're right, Geiger is kind of minimalistic when it comes to the words. Redcoat has more words.
Yes, it does.
He's always talking about stuff, it seems to me. But Geiger is like, he's almost like a brooding type of Batman character. And
Yeah,
stuff,
talk a whole lot.
you know, yeah. So
It
it
makes
works
for a
good for
fast
him as
read.
well as the Batman, where you don't have a lot of dialogue for him.
Mhm.
And but some others, they more dialogue actually helps with Redcoat, helps with the character, you know. So, hey, Damien, how are you? So, I think that basically what we're saying is it depends. We're
Yeah.
never going to go back to the old ways. That's not going to happen. We're a lot more dialogue intensive. The writers seem to be taking over a little bit more, but now you've got the struggle between writers and artists. And I still think if I'm reading a lot of words that's there, I'm not paying as much attention to the artwork, than if there's fewer words, give me some idea of what's going on. So, so it depends on how you want to approach your comic book reading, I suppose.
It's a good summation.
Yeah. Any last words?
I think you hit it right on the head, Joe.
Of course I did.
It can work and it can't work, and like
I'm aware.
of course, Joe. But no, I do. I think it just some stories work better with the dialogue. Some stories work better with the thought balloons, and you can do in between. So like, there's no right or wrong answer to this.
Well, that we just have to make sure that it all makes sense. That's what thing I'm sure we can all agree on. You want the story to make sense, because I know we've all read books that we went, what the hell is going on in this story? Like, obviously somebody didn't edit this thing and read through it, because it doesn't make damn sense. And I think
that goes with any type of book, though. Even if it's a traditional novel without any graphic art to it, you have good novels, you have bad novels. So I think that just kind of goes with the territory.
All right. So before we close out, I do want to acknowledge that we do have channel membership, and we did put another level of channel membership based on people asking me to do it. So we now have a Chrononaut level.
Ooh.
And our first two are Brian and Terry, Dead Man. I sent out a little thank you gift to both you guys. So hopefully you'll get it soon.
They have
But we
like
love
a
everybody.
presidential seal there.
Yeah, they have a special seal now, which is there.
Gold tier.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
That is neat.
Wow.
The Chrononaut seal. Right?
A chrononaut. Oh yeah, it's like a little astronaut dude. That's cool.
Yeah. But it's
like
a time astronaut,
Mhm.
so it's a chrononaut. We're all about
Wow.
time. We're
Right.
not in the right time frame here.
You go back and forth in time.
Anachronic means chronologically misplaced, and that's me. So anyway, I want to thank everybody too. We've through the dues, we're approaching $400 that we've shared between St. Jude's Research Hospital and Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Oh, nice.
Also, basically through mystery boxes for Comics Curing Cancer and other submissions that we made, gave close to $1,000 to Comics Curing Cancer, and those guys did a great job. They raised they're approaching $55,000 for the American Cancer Society and research with respect to that. So hey, Doug. Yeah. Terry's into stickers. Not yet. Okay, but we may make a sticker, and we'll send you a sticker if we got it. Except every time if I send you a sticker, it's going to cost me $55.
You need to have a sew-on patch, like those soldier patches.
A soldier patch, that would be good.
Oh yeah.
So I want to thank everybody. I want to tell people that are not members, if you want to consider it. All right, the Anachronist, which is the bottom one, the lower level, is only $1.99, and the Chrononaut is now $3.99. And again, everything I get, when I get $200, I get it from YouTube, and then I just send it. I split it between the two charities, and it goes straight out to the two charities. Also, we've got T-shirts and stuff like that in the store. If you're interested in that, everything except for the piece that the manufacturer takes, what I get from that goes also into the kitty for both St. Jude's Research Hospital and Tunnel to Towers Foundation. One last thing I want to mention is I was asked by some people if I'm going to do mystery boxes for these two charities. It's actually a lot of work to put them together because I try to figure out how much the value is. I want to make sure that people get value for the books and stuff like that. So we might do something. I'm not sure yet. So that whatever we collect will go to the two charities. So just stay tuned for that. And we'll see, we'll see whether we do something to try to get a little bit more money for these guys. So again, if you're watching this, just consider membership. You can go online and sign up. It's got to just click in all of my, I don't know about this live one, but in all of my descriptions at the bottom, there's a link. If you go to the link, it explains everything to you and gives you that opportunity. So I appreciate it.
Cool.
All right. Okay. Send it by email. I can print it off. Okay. I can do that. Hey, I just made that up today, with the help of AI. I said, I want something that has to do with this, this, and this. And it gave me about 8 different ones. Some of them are pretty cool, but I like this one the best. So that's why I picked
Nice.
it. All right, guys. Listen, I want to thank you, Steve. Thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it. Matt, as always, you give us a lot of information. Alan.
Right. That's right.
Alan and Matt, OG members of the comic book crowd. Chuck's not feeling well, so Chuck, you stood your ground. You stayed in there. We really
Get well,
appreciate it,
Chuck.
my
Proud
friend.
of you.
Hope
Working
you're
on
feeling better. All right. And I want to thank everybody that showed up in the chat to hang out with us and listen to us bloviate.
That's a great word.
Look it up if you don't know what
I'm gonna have to go look. Okay,
Okay.
Alexa.
it
Alexa.
BLO. That's okay. Anyway, and I really appreciate you guys showing up and supporting the channel. And those of you that are members, again, I appreciate you also. And listen, we do have the Anachronist T-shirt. I'm not wearing that today, but if you didn't get one before and you want one now, that's a special order. Just DM me on Instagram and I'll get one for you. Okay. All right. And with that, I think, guys, we're basically done. Unless anybody, let's see. Anybody? Steve, you got a channel. Why don't you tell us what's coming up on your channel?
I'm doing my Voices Choices on Wednesdays, and on Mondays right now I'm going through finding hidden gems. I'm going through basically every single one of my boxes and all of my books. It's going to take that's I'm doing 8,000 books to go through, so that's going to take a day or two. And then tomorrow, this is my birthday weekend, so this is my
happy birthday!
No.
So tomorrow I'm going to be on Rob's Fat Stacks. So I'm going to be doing my very first debut show, my inaugural show on there. So that'll be cool.
And any special theme on that, or just going to take out your slabs? G.I. Joe.
Oh,
Or it's going to be a mad world. Who knows?
Ever since they posted your G.I. Joe wall in the comic book, we can't live with you.
Yeah, I know. It's horrible, eh?
Horrible.
Oh yeah, there'll be some EC stuff in there for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. It's good to see you. Matt, anything for you? Other than you're going to be on this show again next month, right?
That's where I'll be. Yep. This is where I live, on the Anachronic Comics channel.
Alan recently had a really interesting post. Was that on Instagram, Alan?
Oh yeah, I did a short form and long form video. I came across what could possibly be one of those replaced books in an encapsulated holder. So
very
there was
interesting.
something interesting I found, so I kind of reported that out.
Right. So take a look at that, because it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Chuck, what about you, my friend?
Well, I'm going to be back on here with you whenever we do the next mail call stuff. And,
right. That's going to be, I think, the second. I forget what the Friday is, the 13th, maybe, or whatever.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be on that. We're going to have the next espresso mail call, which is a lot of fun. You got to watch that if you don't, because you'll never see these books again.
Oh, I know. It's a blast.
You never know what these people are going to pull out of their.
I mean, it's really amazing. It's really amazing. Hopefully Milt will feel better and we'll get Milt back on. You know,
Oh my God, the
Yeah.
stuff that he has in his tickle trunk is incredible.
Got some
I'm
books.
gonna have to check that
Tickle Me
out.
Milk. Yes, there we go.
Check it out, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So with that, again, thank you to everybody on the panel here. Thank you to everybody who showed up in the chat. If you're watching it on the replay, thank you for watching it on the replay. And we will see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.